roads that have been completed. So we do have a balance that we'll be putting back into each of the accounts with your approval. We'll need to work with Mr. Madden and his department in order to get the exact number, and I'll appear before you in the future so that we can talk about the exact number to be transferred into each district account and receive your approval. And also the last item is an intergovernmental agreement that we have with the town of Clover that you'll be discussing or approving tonight. And I'm willing to answer any questions that you may have on that agreement.
Mr. Blackwell, Dr. Blackwell.
Dean, I think the third item you mentioned, I couldn't hear you too well, but was that the money that we have, extra money we're going to have that you were going to divide up to the 7 districts?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And you said...
I just kind of wanted to broach the subject tonight, and then we'll be getting with Mr. Madden and his department to find the actual number that we'll be talking about.
I think when we talked, you were guessing over $1 million?
At one point, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm pretty sure it will exceed that amount.
It's probably going to...
Hope so.
So I'd suggest to the council members that we maybe consider that. One consideration is a major road that we consider applying that money in a lump sum to because of all the concerns of state people. So just maybe as an option.
And I think that's an excellent point. I thank you for bringing that up. Because as we see at the RFATS meetings, there are a few large projects that are ongoing that possibly could use some funds to help, such as Highway 21, Colthorpe Road, things like that. I think we could use a lot of information we gather at RFATS in order to have a point of discussion to start with. I mean, that's an excellent idea. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Anyone else? Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
I want to call the York County Council meeting to order. I would like to welcome everyone to our new building and our new council chambers. We're excited about being here. There are kinks to be worked out. This is opening night. There will be more chairs at our next meeting as well. Those of you standing against a wall, feel free to come on down front. No one likes to sit down front, but you're more than welcome to have a chair. I want to thank everyone who made this happen, everyone who, for the county, David Harmon, your hard work, Bill Shanahan, everyone who made this happen, Cumming Corporation for all of their hard work. We appreciate everything you've done. This is a beautiful building. If you've not had an opportunity to walk around it and take a look, this is your building. Your tax dollars paid for this. Please feel free to come and walk around, and we thank you. We thank you for voting for a referendum to allow us to build new buildings. This is a major step up from where we were 2 weeks ago. Thank you all. I'm now going to ask Councilman Roddy to lead us in the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
I feel so honored to be delivering the first prayer and Pledge of Allegiance in this new building, so please let the record know that. I've been instructed to turn my mic on. All right, let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to come together once again. We thank you for the many blessings you bestowed upon us. We ask that you continue to watch over our men and women who serve and protect this community. And Lord, keep us in mind as we come here to deliberate the business of the York County citizens. We thank you for giving us the vision and the fortitude and the support of those who've made this day possible in our new government center building. We ask that you watch over us and help us and lead us and guide us as we move York County forward. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oath of office for newly appointed board and commission members. Please come forward. Rosalind Harps, Albert Quarles, Michael Caruth, Ronnie Beck, Matthew Martin, David Roberts, James Lightsey, Peter Capicelli, Paul Rodriguez, Joseph Costello, Dorothy Johnson. I'm going to veer off the agenda for a second and take a point of personal privilege. During the spring and summer of 2016, county staff began to talk to us about concerns from the sheriff's office regarding the lack of available medical care for the SWAT team. York County is blessed. Piedmont Medical Center provides an ambulance service to our county for free. However, with that blessing comes the side that they cannot go into certain situations. They cannot put their paramedics in harm's way. They can't put them in dangerous areas. So it left a gap for our SWAT team and how we would take care of them. Beginning in late 2016 throughout 2017, this council passed various ordinance changes to have, we're emergency management staff. They began required training and to receive the proper authorizations to serve it as embedded SWAT medics. Last January 2018, that ordinance actually came into effect. I want to take the opportunity to thank everyone on the staff, the administration, and this council, and the sheriff's office for thinking ahead and making sure we could provide those medical services. Specifically, though, I want to recognize two men, Emergency Management Director Chuck Haynes and Deputy Director Mike Chanel. They both responded to that call that night, and they were instrumental in the saving of two of our officers gravely wounded. These men were awarded the Medal of Valor and the Life Saving Award at the Sheriff's first annual awards banquet on January 31st. We can't thank you enough. You did what most aren't willing to do, and we are fortunate that we all had the foresight to make sure you could do that on behalf of the county. And I want to say thank you, and I would ask that we all rise and thank them. Under consent agenda, I have been asked to move item number 8 off consent, and it is now moved to new business number 3. Does anyone else have any other further requests for consent agenda? Is there a motion?
Move to approve consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Any discussion?
Oh,
Yes, I did. I'll go back to appearance. I keep doing that. Appearances. We have Manning Kimmel. No slight to you, Manning. I apologize.
I'm used to it, not a problem. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight to
number one, congratulate you on this beautiful building. For years and years, I've been coming to council meetings and seen a lot of people who couldn't come into the chamber, and you sure have fixed that problem, and this is certainly a state-of-the-art, beautiful building of which the county deserves, and thank you for doing that. I'm here to talk to you about something that I hope you will find just as exciting. It's called Pathways Community Center. The big issue that you deal with every day as a council is the growth of population. I think we were all stunned 2 weeks ago to hear the latest population projections from RFATS as to what is coming our way over the next 30 years. Not only will we have the population that we have now, but we will have the equivalent of 2 more Raleighs stacked on top of us in the Charlotte metro. That's a lot of people. And as the population grows, so too do all the social ills that every community has. Homelessness, problems with substance abuse, the list goes on and on. And the question is, how do we try to deal with those issues better as a community? A group of us came together a little over a year ago and said, who else is doing this same kind of work, but doing it in a different way? And we journeyed to Columbia, we went up to Charlotte, went over to Greenville, and we found that really the model is right in front of us. How can we take these existing agencies, put them under one roof, and let them work together side by side, rather than having them all over the county where people who are in these situations have no way of getting to them. And I want to take just a few minutes of your time and play you a video that is on our website, pathwaysyc.org, that will tell this story, I think, in a way that will be very clearly understood.
Imagine a single location in York County that's big enough to house the dozens of service agencies needed to end homelessness. But has it ever been done? It's not only possible, but it's a reality in several neighboring communities, including our own state capital.
Success is partnering, one-stop, it's hands-on helping people, because you really have a special population here that needs some help. So you really got to get people together behind the effort, and then I think neighborhoods in the end will see that, hey, this is a good thing. I mean, people have a place to go, and you're back to that standard message. The neighborhoods say, hey, go to Pathways. It's not, well, what do you need? It's, sir, you need to go to Pathways. Whatever the need is. And then let the professionals at Pathway, the partners, figure out the right issues and what needs to happen.
Many Carolina communities have already taken dynamic steps in fighting homelessness. York County now stands ready to take its own major step forward.
The city of Rock Hill has been committed to working with our homeless population for some 10 years now, putting together plans, bringing people together, trying to look at how we look at homelessness in a holistic fashion. And that's what a successful community does. With the creation of Pathways, with the creation of the opportunity for all of our homeless people in our community to get together at one place to get the services they need, that's the definition of a significant community, one that steps up and does more for those that need help. So I'm very supportive of the work of Pathways. I'm very supportive of individual agencies that are working in that regard. And I look forward to the results that we know that will come.
I'm excited about returning home to Rock Hill and finding the creative leadership and tremendous opportunities that lie here. Pathways is one of them. That innovative vision will have a tremendous impact on our community.
It's exciting to be part of the mounting number of regional agencies coming together to help make the Pathways dream come true.
One of the major tenets of the 10-year plan was to create a single point of entry for our homeless clients. We know that looking at best practices around the state, that we've studied this and we are ready. We are ready to develop Pathways Community Center because we know that that service delivery model will approach it in a holistic way, that the client will enter our system and be able to have outcomes that we've never been able to maintain before.
Nearly all the vital services needed to end homelessness in one location. What a blessing.
After living in York County for 28 years and serving the Charlotte community for over 21 years, I am elated about this exciting opportunity in this region. CCA looks forward to participating in this effort.
This is such an outstanding example of a community coming together that was once just working independently in their own little silos to address this problem, but joining forces to focus on the needs of this particular segment of our society, to make sure that they have everything that they need to be put back on the path of being a productive citizen, rather than the path to the Moss Justice Center.
Rock Hill's 10-year plan to respond to homelessness is set. Dozens of service agencies, the city, the county, our churches, and citizens are ready to play our role to end homelessness.
Now is the time for our entire community to come together to help the Pathways Community Center become a reality.
Together, we stand ready to fight homelessness. A single point of entry for those in need. Pathways Community Center. This is our time. Will you join us?
Chairman Johnson, if I could, I'd just like to point out to everyone
single
that
location in York County that's big enough to...
when videos are playing for everyone to watch, we have monitors here, so we're not ignoring what y'all see if we don't look at those monitors. We have something in front of us. In the old chambers, we had to turn and look. So I just want everyone to know we're not all sitting up here ignoring what's being presented to us.
Thank you.
As you can see from the handout that I have given you, we've had a lot of activity since we were formally put together, which was just a little over a year ago. Since that time, we have gotten ourselves formally recognized. We're a legitimate 501c3. We have raised some money. We have acquired a building, and if you flip to page number 2, you will see the building that we have acquired. It is the old West End School, very close to York County Natural Gas on Cherry Road. It's roughly a 40,000 square foot building that we purchased from the Baxter Simpson family with the help of South State Bank. That building right now, we've hired an architect to do a space design for us because we really have had a very positive response from existing agencies. Over 33 agencies have come to us and want space of one type or another, either for a full-time location or for a part-time location or for an on-demand location. And you will see on the page number 3 who those agencies are and the various services they provided. And this list, although it's dated the 1st of February, is a little bit out of date because it's been updated. Now, where are we? We have been in the fundraising mode. Most of our money, well, matter of fact, all of our money has been used on capital. We had to buy the building, had to put a hefty down payment on it. We're in the process of doing the renovations that need to be done to get all these agencies in, and that's going to be a hefty tab of somewhere between $500,000 and $600,000. We have received pledges and gifts totaling just under $1.6 million. We have had assistance from all different types of people, from individuals, from companies. We've had some help from the city of Rock Hill, and that's why we're here tonight to ask for your help in helping us get this building upfitted. We hope to be operational by April, May at the latest, to get our first tenants in there, and then step by step we will be bringing all those in. We have security that we have to pay for. We have fencing that we have existing fencing, but that needs to be upgraded. We have security cameras that need to be put in because our agreement with the Boyd Hill community next to us is that we will have 24-hour security the entire time that we are there. We think we've got a very good plan for Pathways, but the key thing is it's a single point of entry where somebody who's got an issue can come to get some help. And I've told this story so many times that the rest of the other board members here don't want to hear it again, but I think it's something that everybody in this room needs to understand. You probably ask yourself, how do people get in these situations? I grew up in the state of Delaware, and my first job as a reporter was in my home state. And I was assigned to cover the General Assembly down in Dover, Delaware. I would go down there a couple of days a week during session, do a lot of interviews, come back, put the interviews on the air. I got to know a lot of people. Years later, when I was in Western Maryland, where my first business was, I was watching 60 Minutes, and on comes this interview of a cardboard box city from San Francisco. And I hear this voice being interviewed, very articulate, caused me to turn around. I said, this can't be him. I picked the phone up, called my dad. I said, are you watching? Yeah, I'm watching this. Is that, yes, that's who you think it is? I said, Dad, what happened to this guy? Well, this guy had he just had a loving relationship with his wife from 30 plus years, and she suddenly passed away. And that little button that I think everybody has inside of them can be pushed at the right set of circumstances, and he just came tumbling on down. This gentleman was the former Speaker of the Delaware House of Representatives and a senior VP with the DuPont Company. So I figured if it could happen to him, it could happen to anybody. And if it's one thing I've learned over the years from dealing with people like Reverend King, we just can't, everybody out there has a story. And we can't have a whole lot of judgment in our hearts as to how they got into those situations. We just have to figure out a way to get them back on their feet and make them productive members of society, which is what Pathways is all about. It's just a single point of entry where people who need help can go and just walk down a hallway and get the services that they need based on whatever their problem is. We want to get them back up on their feet. We want to make them productive members of the York County community, and so they can move on. But keep in mind, as this population continues to grow, so too will this issue. And we have to do it, we have to deal with it in a different way. We are not recreating the wheel. We're not going to tell these agencies how to do their business. They know how to do it. We're just giving them an opportunity to do it under one roof. I would like to end by asking those board members from Pathways who are here to stand up, and we've got a bunch of them if they would. And I thank them all for what they've done over the last year and a half or so, and we've got more that couldn't be here tonight. You will see on the last page of your handout exactly who our board members are, and I would encourage you, as you deliberate over our request for help, to go to pathwaysyc.org. Pathwaysyc.org, it has all the information about who we are and what we are doing.
Thank you, Manning.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Manning. I wasn't going to speak, but yesterday I went to visit my daughter in Anderson. She's a junior at Anderson University, and she got an opportunity to sing in front of an orchestra. There was a select group of folks who got to sing a song in front of the orchestra, and it was particularly to have that privilege to be able to sing in front of a full orchestra was just a big deal to her. And what really moved me about that was you had every single person playing a different part in that orchestra. And when you pull them together, it's overwhelming and powerful when you have a group of people that come together for a common purpose. You have an outstanding, it reminds me of what you've done with Pathways. You have an outstanding board. I'm so thankful to see so many of the board members here who are committed to this project. After serving on the Haven board, I realize that this is an extremely important issue, and if we're coming together for something, that's a big deal for our community.
Thank you, Councilmember Cox. I will tell you that our anchor tenants are going to be the Rock, the Haven, and Carolina Community Action. The Rock will be moving in. They'll probably be our first tenant that will be in there. The Haven will follow shortly thereafter. And because of this space, the Haven, which now can handle about 12 men in their existing facility, they will have enough space in time to go up to over 40 men. And they have a very successful program of getting gentlemen who have had problems and issues back up on their feet and getting them to be productive members. And I do add one more thing. We're not asking you to do anything that this board hasn't done already themselves. I'm very proud to say that this board, on that sheet of paper, collectively have committed over $220,000 of their own resources to this project. And we have raised about $1.6 million. So we ask you to help us out. We need the help. We're not asking for operating money. We're asking for dollars to help us with this capital bill that we know is going to be growing as we get all the configurations for the space.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Dr. Black.
I know we try to avoid interacting during appearances, but this is kind of like an intergovernmental situation here. So we were dedicated to helping with donating the Good Motor property for Rock as a worthy cause, but can you, when you say you need financial assistance, do you have a figure?
I'd like to see the county council give us, if they can, $150,000 to $200,000.
Did you?
We have received from the city, so you'll know, the city has given us $75,000 already, and we feel rather confident that we'll be able to get another $75,000. And we're going to go to the other municipalities. Well, this is a county-wide facility. So we're going to go and talk to Fort Mill, and we're going to go to talk to Tegakay, because this is for everybody.
You said this is capital, not operational, a one-time.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Roddy.
First of all, I want to say thank you to the many who played a part in pulling this effort together. I briefly learned of the project, I think it was around Christmas time when you mentioned it to me. This is definitely a service that's needed, not just in Rock Hill, but throughout York County. And I love the story that you mentioned about the gentleman in Delaware. You know, we do have people in this community that are falling on hard times, and we have people who will continue to fall on hard times. And the solution is having some things in place that will help them get out of those hard times. And I think it's noble, it's philanthropy for people to come together to recognize everyone doesn't live like our neighbors live next door. We have to keep that in mind. I think that's a big thing, because so many things in this community gets pushed below the radar, and when they come to surface, people are like, wow, I didn't know that was happening. You know, it's happening not just here in Rock Hill, York County, but it's happening everywhere. And I'm fortunate to be a part of a community that says, even though I'm not in the situation, I recognize the situation. I'm willing to give my time, talent, and definitely those who've committed resources to the project. I think it's a wonderful project, a collective project that will change the game and get people back on their feet faster. Like Manning said, when people need services and they don't have transportation, they need to be on Anderson Road for one service, they need to be on Heckle for another service, they need to be on Chair Road for another service. This is, from what my understanding, what I've seen of the project, it's going to bring a lot of those resources under one roof and makes it easier and faster for people to get the services that they need and get back on their feet. So this is definitely a great effort. I just have one little thing, is I wish I would have been brought into the fold, since this is in my district, a lot sooner and known about it, but I don't think we'll have an issue with supporting this on council. But I would like to hear from you gentlemen a little more often if something's going on in my district.
Yes, sir. Not a problem.
Mr. Hamilton.
Manning, I just want to thank you for providing this presentation to us and for all the work that you and the board have done. My only question is about transportation to the facility. Will that be on the City of Rock Hill's planned bus routes?
Yes, one of the beauties of this location is it's right on the city's new free fare bus system. And the other part of the transportation, if we have an agency that has a small space because they have a large facility on another part of town, we're going to have our own transportation to take somebody who walks through the front door that needs services, let's say from Affinity, we'll take them over to Affinity. So we will be able to take care of those issues to make sure that when somebody comes in, they're going to be handled, they're going to be taken care of.
Thank you, Manning.
Thank you, Michael.
Public forum. Want to remind everyone you have 2 minutes under public forum, and we would ask that you please state your name and address when you come up to speak. Brenda Carpenter.
My name is Brenda Carpenter, and I live at 4671 West Wind Drive, Rock Hill. I come before you tonight asking that you reconsider your vote to approve the rezoning of 102 Weatherwood Street to a BD3. That property already has a zoning designation of BD1, and considering it is literally in the backyard of an established neighborhood, that is the maximum of what it should ever be. I have attended every Planning Commission meeting, ZBA meeting, and County Council meeting for the past 2 years and have heard much about the comprehensive land use that is in place for York County. That study shows this property should be residential. York County Planning Department recommended denial of this rezoning, and I would imagine those employees are paid by York County and as such should be knowledgeable about decisions they make. The entire neighborhood opposes the rezoning. It seems that the property is being marketed to the wrong types of business. Applicant is asking for the rezoning to put a used car lot on the property. Within a 1-mile stretch of that property, there are already 4 used car lots in operation. I believe the city of Rock Hill has a moratorium on any more used car lots at this time. Do we really want to saturate the county with businesses that the city no longer wants or can accommodate? Ours is not one of the more affluent communities such as Lake Wiley or Baxter Village, but we have all worked hard for the homes we have in the community we enjoy. Please respect our property values and quality of life as we now know it by denying a request to rezone the property at 102 Weatherwood to a BD3. If it must be business, leave it at a BD1 and at least limit what types of business can go on that property. A BD3 opens up too many possibilities for a business to go on that property that would ultimately destroy our neighborhood. Thank you.
Larry Harker.
Larry Harker, 4681 West Wind Drive, Rock Hill. Ladies and gentlemen of the County Council, I am in opposition to the rezoning of 102 Weatherwood. Our neighborhood is already plagued with the adverse effects of a BD3 rezoning. Our neighborhood was never meant to accommodate transfer trucks and big delivery trucks. There is no place for these trucks to turn around, and this would mean more trucks in our neighborhood. We have no sidewalks here and have seen mothers with strollers get in ditches to let big trucks go by. The comprehensive land use plan states that this property is not conducive to a BD3. It is conducive to residential. If the owner of this property cannot sell it as residential, then why can't he sell it as BD1, the zoning it is now? Council staff recommended no change in the zoning. Why is there a comprehensive land plan and a staff for County Council if the recommendations aren't taken? We have 40 signatures in opposition. Our neighborhood consists of people and young families with children. Few neighbors can attend this meeting due to responsibilities associated with school-aged children and older people who can't see well. There are already 4 used car lots between Mount Gallant Road and Weatherwood, one within 500 yards of 102 Weatherwood. Proposed zoning change would make 5. Car lots are noisy during and after business hours, and homeowners will hear these disturbances even in the privacy of their own home. Car lots encourage theft and vandalism, which could easily result in a spike in the theft and vandalism to the surrounding homes and entire subdivision. Because this property backs up directly to residential properties, any traffic, loud noises, disturbances, thefts, and vandalism will adversely affect the quality of our life in the neighborhood. Unlike the owner and applicant, we can't leave from it after selling it or go home and leave it like the applicant. A lot of people must live with this forever, never getting away from it unless we move or die. We don't oppose growth, just a negative kind, which this is. Your decision to approve the BD3 zoning will affect a lot of York County citizens in a negative way.
Mr. Harker, I hate to interrupt you, but your 2 minutes is up.
Thank you very much.
Herbert Alton.
My name's Herbert Alton. I live at 1586 Avenue Church Road. And I appreciate y'all hearing me tonight. I've been over this before, but I disagree with the problems that would cause in the neighborhood. I don't think it would cause that, because there's quite a distance between us, and it's just one house behind us. And I think their fears, won't come to pass. And I hope that you'll pass it. I appreciate your vote, because it means a lot to our family before we can move on with the inheritance that we have inherited. And it's hard to sell BD1, and we can sell it better at BD3. And I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Nora Daher.
My name is Noura Daher, 5089 Downing Drive, Fort Mill, South Carolina, 29708. I'm the applicant for the rezoning, and I appreciate if you can make it work for us. As previously mentioned, this property is adjacent to two other properties, BD3 and urban development. So we have construction, we have U-Haul, and we have other businesses there. So I do believe that the business that we're going to have there is not going to bring any harm to the community or to the neighborhood. And I understand that the zoning planning department, they see it like as a single home, as residential. With all my respect, that property, it cannot be residential. We're open for any conditions, 50 feet buffer, and we're going to improve the property by having a fence, by having camera, security staff, and it's a family-based business, as previously mentioned. It's going to be not noisy. It's going to be few cars on the car lot, no junkyard. It's not a junkyard, and it's not going to be noisy. Everybody has a car parking in the parking lot of his house, and he turn it on to drive to his work or whatever. So it's not that business that's going to bring noise to the community or neighborhood. And as traffic, also is not, as previously mentioned, is not going to bring that traffic to the community or neighborhood, because it's going to be a few cars coming in and out for all day, and we're going to be using the road, which is not the neighborhood streets or whatever, like the neighborhood is going to be like from outside, and they will stay outside the community. And as I said previously, we're open for any conditions, and we're going to be improving the area there. And I want to mention something, that property is, as I said, it's in between other properties that they are urban development and BD3. So I do not believe that, I do not think that's going to be not appropriate to have it as BD3. Okay, thank you.
Name Daher.
Good evening. First name Naeem, N-A-I-M, Daher, D-A-H-E-R, 5089 Downing Drive in Fort Mill. I'm Nora's husband. I'm here for her support. And just to add to what she had mentioned, as you look at the property, it's like we have the president, the vice president, the speaker of the house. The speaker of the house and the president can do whatever they want because they're on side, and the vice president doesn't get to do what he wants to do. There's U-Haul, they rent, and it's a big storage facility. On the other side, it's already currently BD3. So I can walk into and say, sir, would you rent your property? And I can open a car lot complying with all the rules and regulation. The property in the middle, I think one of you gentlemen, refer to it as a donut. So everybody get to the outside, but the inside, which is being this property, is a standstill. So I'm here for, the support and, for the rezoning of this property, taking in consideration, it's, we have 2 young children, so we don't want to open a property that cause harm or bring harm to other kids. My Mary Joyce is 6, my George is 4 years old. So definitely I'm not going to open a business that cause harm to any children, because there was mentions, people with strollers. And I've been in the business since 95. Typical used car lot, small family operated. You'll probably have 5 customers on your busiest day, maybe 7. And you're lucky if you sell 1. usually typically sell 8 to 10 cars a month. We're not like the Hendricks or the Burton Smiths. And I would like your consideration and a vote yes for rezoning for BD3. I do appreciate it, and have a good evening.
Back to consent agenda. We are still pulling item 8 off of consent, moving it to new business number 3. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It is approved. Under public hearing, rezoning action, hold a public hearing on case number 19-03, tax map number 671000051 to rezone from UD to RC2, property located at 241 Springdale Road in the Rock Hill community. Is there anyone here to speak against? Is there anyone in favor? Yes, ma'am.
Tina Cato, and I'm the wife of the applicant. And we bought it to put a trailer on it. It already has a trailer on it, so we didn't know anything about the zoning.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor? Is there a motion?
Move to close.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none. Passes. Council to hold a public hearing and consider amending and providing third reading of an ordinance extending the threshold date and term of a fee in lieu of tax agreement with respect to the expansion of an industrial project in the county as provided in Title 12, Chapter 44 of the Code of Laws of South Carolina, 1976 as amended, by and between Transaxle Manufacturing of America Corporation and York County. Is there anyone against? Anyone in favor?
Frank Davis of Haynesworth St. Boyd, and we have Tim Avercamp of Transaxle Manufacturing who'd like to address the council.
Good evening. My name is Tim Avercamp. I'm the president of Transaxle Manufacturing of America. I just want to extend my special thanks to the council and your county staff for our partnership that we've had since the inception of Transaxle since 2001. We've had a very mutually beneficial relationship since that time, and we've fortunately been able to grow together. So we appreciate the consideration, and we're here to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyone else in favor? We have a motion.
Move to close.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, hearing none. Do we have a new motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It is approved. Council to approve the agreement between York County Cultural and Heritage Museums and MODE, a visual agency, LLC, for purposes of rebranding of CHM and its individual sites in an amount not to exceed $95,000. Mr. Roddy.
Mr. Chairman, can we have Mr. Tillett come give us an explanation of what's going on with this before we?
Oh, I did?
Yeah.
Well, I'm everywhere tonight. Let's try this again. I'm excited about it. I want to get to it.
So it'd be number 3 under new business.
Yeah. Still under old business. Mr. Hamilton to address us regarding Pennies for Progress.
Remember, Patrick, we're not ignoring you. We're looking at our monitor.
Gotcha. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So here tonight for a quarterly update. This will be very similar to what I talked to y'all about on Friday, but I know y'all got a lot of information on Friday, so it'd be good to touch up on it again. Turn it on. There we go. Looking back at 2018 and some of the accomplishments we had in the Pennies program, we completed 3 projects. The largest one was Cell River Road, the 5-lane widening in Rock Hill. Also Ross Canyon 4th and 5th Street intersection improvement here in York, and Poe Quantz, a new railroad crossing in the city of Rock Hill just off of Dave Lau Boulevard. We also awarded 4 construction contracts. The biggest one that's under construction now is Highway 274 and Pole Branch Road in the Lake Wiley community. Also Anderson Cohen Farm intersection just right near the city of Rock Hill Operations Center. Barrett US 321 Connector Road, that's essentially building a new bypass north of downtown Clover. That project, we had the pre-construction meeting last week for that one, so that one should be getting started here late March, early April, along with Highway 160 West in Fort Mill, going from Zoar Road up to the state line. That'll be a 5-lane widening. Pre-con is scheduled for next week, again, end of March, 1st of April construction timeframe on that one. One of the big things that I'm extremely proud of, and a lot of this was help from the $16 million loan that we received from County Council, was we are now under contract on 13 of the 14 new projects on Pennies 4. The only project we're not under contract in is the bottom project, which was Neely Road, which again, if you remember, there was an asterisk next to that one already, because the referendum went over the recommended dollar amount, so that one's going to be based on the available funding and the above projects being completed. So we said we had a plan, y'all granted us the loan, and we are executing that plan. Also, with that $50 million loan, allowed us to get a jump start on the resurfacing projects on Pennies 4. As of last month, we've already bid out over half the roads on that list, which equates to 41.5 miles out of the 80 miles on Pennies 4 resurfacing. Obviously, all of them aren't done or hadn't started on them, but they are under contract and will be done. The majority of them will be completed this year. Take a couple of look at a few of the projects that we finished. This is Stell River Road. This is Paragon Way is the intersection down there at the bottom. You're looking north towards Cherry Road. Ross Canyon 4th and 5th Street here in York. One thing I want to point out about this project, as I mentioned on Friday, was the SCDOT was a tremendous help to us on this project. They did the traffic counts, they did the turning movements, they did the design in-house for us. So we saved anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000 on this project just by getting the DOT to design this one in-house for us. This project was completed this past year. And finally, Poe Quantz, the new railroad crossing just off Dave Lau, is open to traffic now as well. Looking ahead to 2019, a few of our goals. As a goal every year is we don't want to have any change orders on any projects under construction. I don't want to have to come back to y'all to ask for more money once we've already awarded the contract to the contractor. Looking back the past 10 years or so, the county took over the program in 2008 from the consultant, and since that time there's only been 2 projects where staff had to come back to you for more money for a project that's under construction, and in both cases it was due to bad material on site that wasn't picked up during the design phase. Another goal is on Pennies 4. Those 13 projects I talked about that are already under design, our goal is to have 6 of those have right-of-way plan approval by the end of this year. It's a very lofty goal, but we have a plan in place and some good consultants on board that we feel confident in being able to get 6 of the projects into the right-of-way acquisition phase, which in turn will get us to construction that much sooner. And lastly, in working with Public Works and the in-house paving crew, we are planning to pave 6 miles of Pennies roads. Some of those are gravel roads, and some of those are also county roads that were on the Pennies 4 resurfacing list. That will allow us to save at least 30% on the construction cost of all those roads. So that'll be a good savings for us to utilize our in-house paving crew. Excuse me. Looking at the upcoming construction schedule, as I've been mentioning before, Gold Hill I-77 is still scheduled for a May letting. That project, again, is being managed by SCDOT. There's about $2.5 million of federal funds on that job, so that's why DOT will be managing that one. Resurfacing Group 3, like I mentioned, that project was awarded, or will be awarded this week by the SCDOT Commission. That includes 19 miles of resurfacing. The majority of those roads are down here in the York area. There are a couple of roads in the Rock Hill area as well, along with the biggest one is Chapel Road in the McConnells area. Cherry Road. Cherry Road is probably one of the worst roads that has the highest volume of traffic on it, basically from Winthrop campus up to Cherry Park. Again, that project should be awarded this week. Included in that is also the pedestrian safety project, which was a Pennies 3 project to improve some of the pedestrian access around the university crossing Cherry Road and back from Winthrop. And Highway 21 South turn lanes, again, DOT is designing this project in-house, and I don't have a date from them yet. but they are planning to get this one out later this year as well. A couple other items of note. As I mentioned, Friday afternoon, we did receive the right-of-way plan approval on Highway 72 project from SCDOT. So we have a call hopefully tomorrow with our consultant to kind of get started on the right-of-way acquisition on that project. Again, that'll be probably around an 18-month process to acquire all the right-of-way on that project. Then we can get the final plans approved from DOT and get that project out to bid. Also, we have a public meeting on Highway 557 Wednesday evening. That's going to be at the Bethel Volunteer Fire Department at 7 p.m. We'll be doing a formal presentation at that meeting, followed by a Q&A from any of the citizens in attendance. That's a quick rundown, and I'll be happy to answer any other questions that y'all may have.
Mr. Roddy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having said that, we're bidding out some, I think it was 19 miles of road.
That was the one contract. Yes,
yeah. Is that going to have any effect on the completion of the C-Fund roads and things that we've kind of already got in the works? So I know we don't have a lot of paving groups in the area, so should we expect some delays on those projects because we all know contractors want to jump on the big money projects and kind of leave these single road, neighborhood roads and interior roads kind of, should we expect any delays with those?
I guess that is a potential. We are seeing, I guess, the amount of workload that's out there between pennies, C-Funds, DOT, regular work. There's only a handful of contractors that do the paving work, and the schedules have been impacted. Even our pennies projects have been impacted by the schedule due to just the sheer amount of work that's out there.
Right.
We're getting fewer bids than we normally would, again, due to not enough contractors and that much work being available out there already.
Now, I know sometimes when we have a limited supply of contractors out there, and when we start wanting them here, there, and everywhere, it drives the cost up. Should we be concerned with putting so many projects out? Because now we're kind of at the mercy of the contractor to run the price up just because it's such a higher demand. But we're putting all the roads out there, so we're creating that demand here. So can we kind of look at balancing it when we let
issue with that, I get calls and emails every single week wanting to know why their roads aren't done yet. So if I tell them, oh, well, we're going to delay it another year just to there's so much other work, I'm not sure how that's going to land with the public.
Well, not necessarily to say that doing it that way or speaking it, but we don't have to bid out everything at one time because obviously the contractors are going to want to go for the big dollar projects and going to further delay some of the smaller ones that may be on pennies.
Pennies projects we've been putting out are around the $5 to $6 million bid range, which is C-Funds around the $3 to $4 million range. So it's really not like a $20 million bid all at once. It's kind of sticking to that $5 to $6 million bid range, which is an average bid probably for what the DOT puts out as well. You know, we're not putting $10 million in one contract. It is smaller than.
Right. Now while I have you, can you kind of throw out the number just so the general public can know what does it cost to pave just 1 mile of road? Because a lot of people don't know how expensive this paving is.
Dr. Black will ask the same question on Friday.
I was just going to say, he's reading my notes over here.
Oh, you can
I'll give the same answer. That is a very loaded question.
Well, just give us without subsurface work, just paving.
Right.
I know.
Again, there's a lot of variables. Is the road 20 feet wide? Is it 24 feet wide? The type of treatment you do on it, if you do a simple maybe mill and fill, which is you just mill off 2 inches and pave 2 inches, that could run you maybe $300,000 or $350,000. But if you're going in and putting cement and reclamation and rebuilding the whole road, that could be $450,000. So I'd say anywhere from $300,000 to $450,000
per mile.
Per mile.
Okay.
And that again can vary depending on the amount of quantities in the bid. If it's a long road, you'll probably get a lower unit price. But if it's a shorter road, you'll probably get a higher price.
And my last question is, I know you put up something about getting right-of-way acquisition for 72, and I guess this is going to kind of shift over to staff a little bit. Now that we're starting to see some activity there, I know we've been kind of holding off on dealing with the fire department over there on some of their issues, so I guess this would be the appropriate time to kind of re-up with staff that we do have to settle that situation with the fire department over on 72, so that was more towards staff.
Dr. Blackwell.
Patrick, I just want to thank you for the work you've done. Bump and I have sat here the longest, so I've seen a big improvement in the management, how the road money's being managed. Excuse me. But time is money, and you're trying to get ahead of that curve, so we appreciate that because you save the taxpayers a lot of money. But building roads, paving roads is an extremely expensive ordeal, so.
There's Love.
Patrick, thank you for the update. So for the people here from Lake Wiley tonight and those people tuned in from home, what do you think? I know it's rained every weekend since Pole Branch began. So what is that timeline? Are we on track with that timeline, or are we behind due to the
Weather has
weather?
definitely hurt us, and I'm sure y'all are tired of hearing about the weather, and I'm tired of talking about the weather, to be honest. It's definitely hurt us. This much rain, you know, during the winter you expect some rain to get held up a little bit, but not to this extent. We were planning to have the detour done. One of the detours done already. That's not going to be a big detriment to the schedule. At this rate, I mean, we are a little bit behind schedule due to the weather. And, you know, depending on what the spring and summer hold, maybe we can make up some of that ground, but this project's going to go through next winter as well. So if we have another winter like this winter, that's going to hurt us a lot. But, you know, the contractor's out there working when he can. He's aware of the weather and the time constraints on it as well.
Is there anything that can be done for the existing potholes? I know it maybe doesn't make sense to fill in potholes on a road that's being totally redone, but at this point, it really is a safety need. So I just wondered if we could look at that and determine if we could just do a little fill-in while we're waiting to be able to do the detours.
We will. I'll check on that tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Okay, thank you.
Bobby Comer to provide an update on animal control.
Good evening, County Council. I'm here tonight to just update you on some of our accomplishments we've had over the last year at York County Animal Control. We're going to start by looking at our critical areas: intake and release of animals, the euthanasia rate of the animals, standard of care within the shelter, and community partnership. We're going to start by looking at some of the statistics, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how we got there. This gives you a glance over the last 4 years of the intake of animals into our shelter. And as you can see, last year, by putting some strategic plans into place at our shelter, the intake has drastically been reduced. We have reduced it by 24%, and owner surrenders went down by 51%. And if we look just a little bit closer, so you can have a glance of January to January, which is a huge month for us at the shelter, in 2018, we were at over 400 animals. And you can look at the difference for owner surrenders and the impact that our managed intake program has had. In 2019, we are down under 300 animals in January. So we are looking at a difference for the owner surrenders. In January of last year, we were at 150 owner surrenders. In January of this year, we had 22. If you want to look at where the animals are going, we also have had success in our outcomes. Again, you can see very obviously the amount of animals that were leaving the shelter each year and the impact. Most noticeable is the euthanasia rate. We have reduced the euthanasia rate by 55% at our shelter. This is unheard of in shelter standards. We were talking with Anderson County at the very beginning of this endeavor. They estimated it would take us 5 years to get here. We did it in 1. In 2018, our annual save rate is 79%. Since September, we are at over 90% live out rate. In the world of shelters, when you hit 90% for over a 6-month period, you're considered the no-kill status, which is the premier level to achieve as a shelter and nearly impossible for a county shelter to achieve. We're about to hit it in our county, so it's something to be extremely proud of. Part of that is we have rescued over 800 dogs in 2018. This is a 54% increase of getting animals out of the shelter. So how did we do it? One thing we did is we put in some strategic plans for strays in the field. We gave each officer a microchip scanner to help reunite the animals in the field. We implemented a managed intake program. We introduced bill protocol for stray reunification. And then for outcomes, we did a lot of marketing. We did heavy social media, partnered with rescues, implemented a new resolution, and we created a community foster program. Additional highlights, we increased our standard of care. We updated our cleaning system, which was saved us approximately 40% in costs. We implemented a managed feeding program, which saved us approximately 25%. We partnered with our design program, Chameleon, to monitor the animals' health guidelines. We purchased a new X-ray machine, which will decrease our cost of outsourced medical care. We implemented shelter policies to meet the minimum standard of care for national shelter guidelines. And in the community, we partnered with our volunteer organization, Friends of York County Animal Shelter, to implement foster programs to transition animals out of the shelter. We implemented a community reading program, and as of last week, we are now going into York County schools to do an education program. We also piloted a shelter emergency management program. I'd like to know if you have any additional questions.
Any questions?
Since July.
Mr. Roddy?
I got to get used to hitting my button. Thank you for coming to bring this update to us and making not only us aware of the efforts you're making and the achievements you're doing, but just to notify the public. And I think we met midway through last year to talk about some no-kill, some of those being our goals. And I think, you know, I was concerned, I was skeptical, but to hear the update on things we've accomplished, and hearing that we're well in reach of attaining some of these things that, frankly, you know, Allison was a driving force on my end, saying, hey, we got to do this, we got to do this. And, you know, trying to read up and learn how all that works, and just to hear you say we're close to making that, it's refreshing, because we've had our ups and downs with animal control, and I think people who frequent these council meetings who've been in here have heard and seen some of the things. But the one caveat that I think has been consistent over time, and even with what you're doing, is educating people. You can't discount the fact that education plays a part in how people treat their animals, what our responsibilities are, and what we expect of them going forward. So, and I think some people didn't really trust the process of, hey, we have to do it this way to get the public to buy into it. We can't just force things down people's throat and expect them to comply. And I think over time, and being consistent with what we're doing and trying to educate people, and not just sending people out writing tickets, taking people to court, beating them over the head with it, we have to educate people. And I think some people who didn't think this process would work with the way we chose to do it, hopefully they'll get a chance to see this report, hear this report, and see that we're making strides, and we're not having to be as aggressive as some people thought we should have been in the past. And I commend you. I got to get by and have a sit down, but definitely what I'm seeing and knowing where we come from, this is remarkable news. This is definitely a step in the right direction. And if anybody didn't trust the process, hopefully this will be enough to say, hey, what we're doing is working the way they said it would work. And I think the biggest thing is education and giving people time and being patient for them to buy into it, because it would have been easy for us to slap some things on paper and make it the rule of the day. But even if we'd have done that a year or 2 years ago, I don't think it would have gotten us here, as opposed to the steps we've taken in the past to get us here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Black.
I was giving Allison a chance to speak, but
I think I've talked about animal control enough over the last 2 years.
Okay.
I don't have to say anything tonight.
well, I do want to say, Bobby, I'm very impressed with what you've done. I think Allison deserves a pat on the back too by her involvement there. And I certainly believe in the philosophy of man's best friend, and my 2-year-old buddy, a cockapoo, wants to send his appreciation to you too.
We'll take it.
Thank you for all you've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rezoning action, consider second reading on case number 18-20, tax map 544-0000031 to rezone from BD1 to BD3 at 102 Weatherwood Street in the Rock Hill community.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Blackwell.
I want to make a motion. This is in my district, and I certainly, after our last council meeting, the will of the council was clear. So based on that will of the majority, I accept that, and I'd like to make the following motion to approve the rezoning from BD1 to BD3 with the following conditions. A 100-foot buffer must be maintained to separate the operations of the auto sales lot from the adjoining residential properties at the rear of the lot. Auto repairs are prohibited from taking place on the property. All vehicles located on the property must be in operable condition. And lastly, the use of the property is restricted to auto sales lot or other uses allowed within the BD1 district.
Any discussion? Mr. Blackwell.
Let me just point out that, well, like I've already said, I opposed this originally based on the staff recommendations, all the neighbors. But I understand the majority of the council members, and I certainly bow to that majority. So what I want to achieve with this is just try to be fair to the neighbors in addition to giving the applicant what they asked for. So trying the best I can to meet in the middle.
Mr. Roddy.
Karen, can you put the slide up for me? I certainly appreciate Dr. Blackwell's willingness to reconsider his support of this, and we got the message about some of the conditions that were being asked for. I met with the applicant and discussed those. Well, I didn't meet with her. I actually gave her a phone call and went over some of the conditions, and everything was agreeable except the 100-foot buffer across the back line of the property. I even met with David Husband last week, and we looked at this aerial shot, and we looked at, the distance that the nearest home is in the rear of the property, which sits back pretty good, as well as what was going on next to the property. And as you can see, there's a lot of business activity going on in the area. You have E-Falls, you have the car lot on the corner, you have storage, you have U-Haul rental. So when I've heard people come up and discuss residential, it should be residential. There's no way that we can continue to allow or expect a home or someone to live in an environment where you have all this business activity going on. So I did want to kind of point that out, even though I think we all, as council members, have gotten past the fact that we wouldn't really expect someone to be living in a home with all this commercial activity going on. But my main point that I wanted to bring up was the normal setback, in this case, is 30 feet. And asking the applicant to do 100 feet, that's basically 3 times what the minimum is. And everything was agreeable except the 100-foot buffer, and she asked me to present to council a reconsideration of that condition down to 50 feet. And so I told her I would bring this option, but everything else that Dr. Blackwell has mentioned has been agreeable to. No auto repairs. Everything else is in working order, but I would just ask the council to reconsider, and if I have to make it in the form of a motion, I will, or if Dr. Blackwell will redo his motion to include a 50-foot buffer. Otherwise, I would like to at least put it in the form of a motion and see what other council members think to see if we can agree on a 50-foot buffer.
Dr. Blackwell.
I talked to staff about the best conditions that would make this fair, and I agree with what they suggested, and I'm just going to stick with what I offered.
Okay, so
Mr. Roddy, then.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to amend the motion to a 50-foot, reduce the buffer line from a 100-foot buffer down to a 50-foot buffer for the applicant.
There is a motion to amend. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion on the amendment?
I guess I have a question.
Ms. Cox?
If, since this is second reading, if Dr. Blackwell determines that in between second and third, that's an appropriate discussion, is that something that can be changed at third reading if need be?
Yes.
I think for purposes of second reading, I'll support the councilman whose district he's in and give him an opportunity to work that out with the property owner to see if that needs to be changed.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
No.
The amendment fails. Is there any discussion on the original motion? All those in favor of the original motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It passes. New business. Council to consider authorizing a waiver of the required application fee or alternatively designating Tina Cato as the responsible party for application fees.
Mr. Chairman, I would make the motion that we waive the required application fee for this rezoning. Second.
Motion a second. Is there discussion?
I will just say, Ms. Cato, I appreciate you sitting through the entire meeting. We did do the public hearing way early on, but I appreciate you being here. Obviously, it's important to you, and that amount is important enough to you for you to sit here, and I appreciate you doing that. Council has waived this fee in the past, and basically the way that I approach these, and I've supported them for others who requested this. UD is a zoning district that the council, before I even got on here, so it's been 4 years that this UD zoning district has been declared, basically, we don't want it, and you need to find a different district. Unfortunately, for districts 4 and 5, we haven't even gotten to our district yet to do this rezoning. It's my understanding that it will take to the end of the year to do that. I just fundamentally think that if the government's going to tell you that you can't have that zoning district anymore, that they shouldn't make you pay for it, and so I would ask the council to support me in this request.
Mr. Roddy.
Since we know we're going to have, in cases like this one, we know we're getting rid of this zoning, and if someone petitions us to go ahead and do it now versus waiting until we get around to it, is there such thing that we can go ahead and look at to say, if they petition us to do it, let's go ahead and grant them that without having to go through what we're doing now, because we're knowing we're going to do it on our time. So if someone comes forward in my district or Christie's district who seems to always be on the back end at the bottom of the list when things are getting done throughout the county, is there a mechanism that allows us to go ahead and waive this fee without coming through this process? I guess it's a question for staff.
What staff member wants to tackle that real fast?
Is that legal to do, or can we make that? Or just bring them here and we approve it and waive the fee and move on?
Well, this is a Michael Kendry question.
I was checking with Mr. Hudspeth on there's a process that's been established, and that's what we're conforming to right now. And I would, the question is, can the council deviate from that process and just waive the fee through an administrative action of staff versus coming before council? Is that the...
Right. Since I mean, knowing that we're going to do it, and it won't be a fee to the property owner, but if the property owner says, hey, I want to go ahead and do it now because I have plans with my land right away, versus waiting for us to do it, which we're going to pick up the fee anyway. It wouldn't be a fee.
Give me just 1 minute, please.
Dr. Blackwell, would you like to speak while they're conferring? I mean, I don't know if they're going to answer your question.
Please remind me of my question.
I don't know what the question was. All I can do is recognize you.
Oh, well, that was, the only point I was going to make is that, well, Michael's already kind of restated it. So.
In the summary, there's a ordinance provision that states currently that's the process that's in the code. So we would have to amend that to change it to some other form.
Well, I'll say this. I do think that it's important for us to change this because sometimes that fee prevents folks from doing something with their property, and we're holding it up for a whole year to whenever we get around to doing it, and it's not that significant enough. So I would certainly be willing, if Councilmember Roddy is, to at least put this on the agenda for the next meeting for us to at least have a discussion on that. I don't think there's that many that will happen, but I mean, there have been instances where folks have not been able. I know that this has been going on for a little while, a good while before we even got to this point. So I think it's worth a discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Winkler?
I've consistently voted against waiving fees on rezonings when council has initiated them. However, in talking to Councilmember Cox and looking at this situation, I do feel this one is a little unique to the others that I've voted against, because this is one where we are in the process of rezoning, and we've said, no, you can't do what you want to do in your own land. And if you want to wait a year or so on us, we'll get around to rezoning it, and you can do it then for free. That's a little different than a council member just asking for a rezoning because they're trying to help out somebody in their district, or somebody who missed the opportunity when we did it in my district, coming back later and saying, well, you know, I wish I'd have done it while, well, sorry, it was too late then because we had a process in place. My district's already been done over a year ago. So I am going to break from my normal tradition, and I will support this because I do think this is a special circumstance.
Anyone else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. It is approved. Council to approve first reading of an ordinance to authorize the refund of the county government portion of overpaid taxes for the real property associated with the legal residence identified as tax map number 388-0000059, and to provide for other matters relating thereto.
Move to approve.
Second.
I want to point out that I did not bring this action. Michael, Mr. Kendry, I did not bring this action.
Any discussion?
Thank you.
Yes.
Other than Mr. Roddy's acknowledgement.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would just like to acknowledge to Mr. Kendry and to the council that Mr. Roddy has brought several of these before us and requested that we refund a portion of overpayment to different residences, mainly in his district. And I had this applicant, or this resident, come to me a few weeks back, and she's in a situation where she's overpaid some taxes, and she got back the legal 2 years that the state says we can do without anything coming through council. And she was told that if she needed more than that, she has to do what others have done in Mr. Roddy's district and come before us. So to be consistent with what's done in the past, I ask that this be put on the agenda for council to vote on. So,
Any other discussion? Mr. Roddy?
I'll just say I will support this action, as I've done in the past. Anytime we can correct a situation that may or may not have been overlooked on the part of a citizen or a staff or anything, and obviously the documentation is there for this citizen that shows that it should have been taxed at a different rate. And as again, the refund is not a make or break situation for York County. It's very minimal, and I definitely support refunding this citizen / taxpayer the overpayment.
And I'll just add to that like I've said on the other occasions similar to this, it's not about the dollar amount. This $94 is nominal, and we've had some big ones that have come before us. But I think the worst thing that we can do as a county is hold on to somebody's money that we really should not have gotten in the first place. So I fully support paying a taxpayer back. You know, if you don't pay us, we're going to come and get the money. But if you do pay us, I believe we should give it back.
I voted no on every one of these every time. I do it on the same grounds tonight. I believe you have the personal responsibility to simply fill out the form that every other person in York County who gets the tax break filled out. This is an interesting situation in that a mobile home was moved onto the property at a later date, and they were never actually joined together as a common property, so she was not able to apply. It's also unique that the county is going to spend 3 times the amount of the refund simply to give notice to the papers and the neighbors that we are doing this. And it's something that we should all realize is we're literally refunding less money than we will spend to let people know we are refunding the money. I will vote no tonight. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no? No. It passes. Now, time for number 3. Council to approve the agreement between York County Cultural and Heritage Museums and Mode, a visual agency, LLC, for purposes of rebranding of CHM and its individual sites in an amount not to exceed $95,000. I believe we wanted Mr. Tilley to come forward and explain it first.
Yes, I have our marketing coordinator, Stephen Kreitz, with me, who can probably provide more detail if you need it on the actual project and the contract. So I'll be glad to answer any questions, but the one thing I did want to point out that's odd about this project is if you've had a chance to look at the contract, this is actually not a single project. It's 4 different sites. We're doing branding for 4 different sites because each site has its unique needs. We're investing millions of dollars at MICO and Historic Brattonville, and they have different audiences, different needs, different ways that they need to be presented, but it all needs to be put under the 5th part of the project, which is the same umbrella. So if you look at the components of the contract and what's being done, each one, you sort of multiply those components by 5. And that may be an oversimplification of it, but that is why this cost is where it is. And I'll be glad to answer any questions about that.
Mr. Roddy.
Well, this was originally in the consent agenda, and so I wanted to have it pulled out to kind of have it explained to us kind of what was going on. I know we went through a rebranding maybe 2 years ago with the CVB. I'm not sure exactly the funding mechanism, but I do know they went through and did some things with the logo and kind of a whole marketing campaign to say, hey, we're the CVB, we're here, this is what we do, visit York County, blah, 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 whatever. So I guess a question that I would have is this going to be, obviously this wasn't in the budget going forward from last year, am I correct? This is something that we've just kind of put on the table?
This has been on the budget. Might have even been from the year before. We had budgeted for branding last year and the year before, and we had postponed it, or maybe last year was the first year, I can't remember. But we had postponed it until we got a couple of things straight about what we were doing, what we were asking them to brand with some of the projects going on, specifically at McKelvey, needed better definition. We met with the community and stuff to get that better definition, and also putting the mechanism in place that the Museum of York County would be a natural history museum and would focus on that, and that all influenced how the branding would work. So we had postponed it from when it was first on the budget. I know it was in there last year, and then we put it back in this year.
So it was in the budget at $95,000?
No.
Or we've kind of said we held off a couple of years from now?
We had originally estimated at $80,000 for the cost of the project. When we went through the process of the purchasing process and put the procurement, we put it out there as a request for proposals. One company came back just outstanding and higher than the others. Before you factored in the cost, and then after you factored in the cost, its total score was still much higher than the second closest one, and it was significantly over that. And we entered into negotiations with approval of the council. We entered into negotiations and got that price down to $95,000. And we really feel like this is the strongest way to move this forward, and it is consistent with what's purchasing. So we had to move $15,000 out of contingency to cover the base.
Now, when we see and hear a budget of $95,000 to rebrand, kind of explain to us as well as those here and maybe listening, watching on TV, how important, how significant, what does it mean, and what are we hoping to achieve? I know, I understand rebranding, but how do we, if someone comes up to me and say, man, y'all shouldn't have done 95,000 rebrand, because they don't understand it, kind of help the general public understand what does this mean and the impact we expect to get back from the rebranding and spending this kind of money?
Well, I think that the rebrand will allow us to reach a new audience. For one of the things we were focused on with the work at Brattonsville is we believe that Historic Brattonsville is a unique type of project that can reach an audience throughout the region, you know, maybe a 300-mile radius, bring people in to see something unique, but we've got to figure out how do we present that so that it has the appeal to draw people into the county and more people. So I think that as we complete these capital projects, we'll be able to understand how best to present that and put it forward through this branding process. And Stephen may be able to answer some of the specifics about what branding does and how it helps us.
Sure. One thing to consider is that it's been nearly 20 years since the organizations came together to form what is now the Culture and Heritage Museums, and in that time we really haven't had a cohesive brand strategy put in place. And in that time, our sites have not only grown and expanded, but we've honed in our mission as well as an overall to focus in on the Carolina Piedmont. And so as our mission has been tightened up, we are in the need of new messaging to position ourselves within the region in a better way to reach the audiences that are growing in York County, but also in the wider region.
And I'll just make one more comment slash question slash comment. You know, when I think of the museum, the children's museums, Brattonsville, and some of the other things that we're involved in, I'm thinking, how do we get our York County people to realize what a jewel that we have, whether it's the Children's Museum or the York County Museum or even Brattonsville? When I see 95,000 as we're going to pay this company to do this, to kind of put our name back out there, would we not be better served just saying, hey, you have an additional $80,000 in your budget to advertise the events, whether it's actual events, because let's face it, a rebranding after 6 months, what are we going to see for that money? You know, rebranding is, hey, bam, this is who we are, we're doing this, and let's face it, over time, advertising, someone else is going to be rebranding and take the spotlight. But if we were spending a lot more money on the events, promoting the sites, we could do that over an extended period of time and basically rebrand by our own advertising per event. Because I know a lot of the schools still visit the museums and a lot of our sites and things. So that's part of the day in, the day out, the monthly, the annual stuff. And I understand wanting to reach people that may be whether Myrtle Beach area or West Virginia area or Tennessee area to come here. I know we spent a lot of money on Brattonsville. We spent a lot of money at the museums. And just to think that we still have to prime the pump to get people to come see it, I would much rather see an elaborate campaign from in-house that we can extend beyond just a few months, because let's face it, everybody's trying to rebrand and take advantage. But rebranding only lasts this long. I can see using $95,000 with this much time versus a short bang. You know, it's just like the 4th of July when people spend a lot of money on the 4th of July fireworks, and once the last one pops, that show's over. You know, but $95,000, that's a lot of money. And it may not be a lot compared to the budgets that the county has or the budget for the museums, but we're spending a lot of money, and I'm just curious, do we really feel like we're going to get the value out of 95?
Well, just to make it clear, this is not a short-term campaign. We're looking at a comprehensive rebrand, which could include a renaming of the organization as well as one of the museums. So this stands to serve us for many years to come, actually, not just a short period of time. We have been, for the last several years, promoting events and that sort of thing, and we've seen growth there, but we're in the need of a comprehensive strategy that will position us well for the future as our area continues to grow.
So I have a question also. What is the number one thing that will be different with the rebranding?
Well, I mean, as I said, we may have a new name for the overall organization, which is currently Culture and Heritage Museums, and we find that to be somewhat vague, and there could be an improvement there, in addition to one of the other museums potentially being renamed. That would be determined by the research phase. But to your question, we will have new logos for all the sites, as well as verbal and visual identities that give us direction as far as how we will do advertising.
So is there a consistent audience, or have you lost audience over maybe the last 5 to 10 years?
No, we had record-breaking attendance in 2018, the fiscal year ending then. So it's growing, but we believe there's certainly we haven't saturated the York County market. I think there's a lot of people that don't know the museums and will come. I think there's an audience in Charlotte that we could get out there, and we're trying to find the best way to reach them. Plus, this larger regional audience that we can bring in, which is good for dollars for communities, economic driving, but also reaching more people. So we will continue with expanding marketing and reaching different audiences that way, but the branding will just sort of inform us and create an overall look and feel of what should be done and how best to do it. So we're bringing in this company that I was really impressed with their proposal that can help us, give us the guidance that we may not have in the staff about how to present this.
And I guess I'll wrap mine up with this is, you said we had record numbers in 2018.
Yes, sir.
And I think a lot of our success to our museums and attractions are based on, we seem to be the ancillary to people coming to Rock Hill and York County for other events, and then we're able to grab their attention to say, hey, we have Brattonville, we have the museum, and I know we're going to get a big boom with the Rock Hill Sports Facility and people coming to town and visit, whether it's BMX or dirt bike racing, and a lot of things that's going on in Rock Hill and other areas of York County. And to hear we had record numbers brings me to a deeper question of, do we really need to spend $95,000 more when we're coming off of record numbers? It's just, I don't really understand the need to spend this type of money when we're saying we're coming off a record year, we're growing, and if the one thing that I could think of that would have put us to a rebranding stage was all the turmoil we went through several years ago with the lawsuits and all the things, when it was just, the water was muddy and the name was no good to certain groups of people, and it was all a bunch of community fighting. I think that probably would have been the best time to say we need to clean up and we need to rebrand so people know what we're really about, because the lawsuits and the public fighting that we all went through kind of really tainted the waters. And I think we've done a tremendous job of rebounding and regrouping and moved away from that. And I think you and your staff have done an outstanding job. But right now at this time, I couldn't see the need for a big campaign now if things were going down, if we were sliding away from some good numbers and participation were down, then say, hey guys, we need a shot in the arm. We need to repump our name out there. We need to rebrand this thing because we're starting to see numbers slide. But I don't see spending that kind of money when we're seeing the upswing coming off a record setting 2018. It's just a tough thing for $95,000, and it's a small dollar amount in the grand scheme of things of what we do, but that's a huge, we're still spending taxpayers' dollars, and I just wanted to have this discussion, and maybe I'm the only one that feels like that, and I've tremendously supported the CHC, but I just think these questions and this conversation kind of needed to be had on this issue.
And I do, before I recognize Mr. Winkler, I want to state there has not been a motion. We are not discussing this. If we have questions for Mr. Tilley, please ask your questions to Mr. Tilley. we can discuss this and give our opinions once a motion and a second has been made. Mr. Winkler?
My only questions are, just to clarify, we approved 80,000 originally, correct? We approved 80,000 originally, so that was in our previous budget. This is just coming back for 15 more.
In this budget.
Your board has approved the extra 15?
We moved that money from contingency and notified the board there wasn't a formal vote.
Okay.
But
And-
they are aware and, they acknowledge it, nobody objected. They just didn't feel like it was necessary to vote and because it was moving.
But it's money that's in your contingency, and you're not coming to us asking for another 15 at this point, from us for anything. It's money in your, okay. That's all I got for now.
Mr. Hamilton?
Have y'all looked at the cost to implement these changes across websites and collateral and everything else we have? And is that budgeted for, and will there be an additional request for that money?
We have looked at the implementation, and we're looking at that in next year's marketing budget. As we alluded to earlier, we've been really focused on event marketing for the past several years, and with the anticipation that would help us to grow and get in a better place, and now we would take some of the monies that have been used for those things and put them toward these new implementing the new branding. So yes, we have looked at how to use our budget differently next year for this purpose.
Anyone? Ms. Cox?
I guess I do just want to clarify. Did you say the board did vote on this and there was no objection?
Oh, they voted on the original 80,000, and we've discussed it. The movement of the contingency, I informed them that we would need to be transferring funds from this depending on how the negotiation went, and there was no objection. But there was not a formal motion or vote on that.
Okay.
Is there now a motion?
Move to approve the additional 15, or the movement of the additional 15 for them to authorize the contract for 95.
Second.
Any discussion? You made the motion. You're first.
And sorry, I didn't turn my microphone on when I made the motion, so we'll get used to this. I'd just like to say that 20 years under the same brand is a long time. If you look at most companies in the world that are doing well, they're usually doing well because they do occasionally have to rebrand. They may, Coca-Cola's been around 100 years, but they've still rebranded themselves a couple of times. They're still Coca-Cola because that whole New Coke thing really didn't work out. That wasn't a rebrand. That was just a new product. But the brand gets stale, and the audience or the public kind of starts forgetting about it or thinking, that's the same old thing that's been for the last 20 years. I'm not going back out there again. I saw it 22 years ago, and it's still the same thing. So I believe you have to do that every so often, and personally, I believe the worst time to do it is after you're going downhill on something, because then you got to play catch up and do even more. As I stated Saturday in our workshop, when times, most businesses, good businesses, plan ahead, and they're spending for this ahead of time before it gets bad. And so I will be supporting this. That's why I made the motion. I think it's, we've already approved the 80,000. We approved them negotiating the scope for more up to 95, and now they're back to say, okay, we got it there, and there's want approval for them to go ahead and finish moving the 15 out of contingency. So I support it. I think the worst time to make a change is when you're already behind the 8 ball. So.
No.
Dr. Blackwell.
Robert said it better than I could say it. I mean, based on the way things change, it's been 20 years just in campaigning and stuff, social media, all the changes in the past 6 to 8 years. So better late than never, but I think it's about time.
Mr. Roddy.
Let me cue in here. I'll just finish my comments that, I support the museums, the CHM. It's just knowing that and I have no problem and we wouldn't even be at this state if they say, well, we found somebody to do it. It was in our budget at $80,000. We don't have to come back. But obviously, there was a need to put it on the agenda to come back to have to act. So, and if given an opportunity, I did want to ask the questions, but I hope we're able to get more than just a new name and a new logo for $95,000. And I'm sure we're going to get, hopefully we get what we spend for, but I wish, I mean, obviously we need to be successful, and we've been successful. I think we've done a tremendous job coming off the lawsuits and the mudslinging that we went through. So we're definitely swinging in the right direction. And I just want to say this just to jab my colleague over there. I still like the original Coke. But
And for those younger than 20 in the room, I apologize for all the Coke references. You have no idea what these people are talking about. I want to ask and clarify one more time. Your board has had a vote and approved an $80,000 to be spent.
They approved that as part of the budget process, I believe, or an amendment to the budget process because it was carried over, not carried over, but it was money that went unused the previous year. So when we got to the end of the year and realized it hadn't been used yet, then it was approved for the current year.
And they approved to use it specifically for this rebranding.
Yes.
That's all my questions. Is there any, I'm sorry, Ms. Love.
So I'm not going to support it, and I'm going to tell you exactly why I'm not going to support it. There's a big difference in rebranding and marketing. A rebranding is that's something that you do, and the marketing is what comes behind it. And I feel like if you put even the original $80,000 into marketing, you would be a lot better off. People know the brand. If you had a record year last year, why do you want to confuse people with something that's new and different? You know, marketing is what I do. That's what I do better than anything else. Can't sing, dance, not great at government, but marketing is what I do. And I just feel like you're going to spend a lot of money to rebrand something, confuse people that are already on your side, rather than bringing new people to the table with the old people that you risk losing to a rebranding. Okay. The other thing that I don't see coming out of Brattonsville and the museum are some of the fundraisers that they used to do. That bothers me greatly because I think it's something that's very unique to York County, and I think that you know, I'm reluctant to support something that I don't feel like is doing everything it possibly can to support itself. And that's just my personal impression of where we are and where Brattonsville and the museum and things are. I would love to, you know, for you to come back to me next year and say, hey, these are the things that we've done, these are the events we've held, this is the impact of those events, and be asking us for $50,000 instead of $95,000. So what I would like to give to you tonight is a kick in the right direction to go out and do what you feel like you can do on your own to get this money and make Brattonsville, the museum, and the Children's Library the very best it can be without asking us for an additional $15,000 that I don't know that the board is, because they haven't voted, I don't know exactly totally where they stand. So I'm not going to support it. But I do support Brattonsville, the museum, I support the whole gamut, but I don't support giving the money to you this easily.
Mr. Roddy, and then we will vote.
This is a simple question. So when we rolled this money over from year to year, how much did we originally start out? Because it could have, and I want to know, we didn't roll over $80,000 each year and keep the same 80. So when we originally rolled it over, when we didn't spend it for as advertising, where do we start this number at now to say, well, we have 80,000, we can do it?
The $80,000 was the amount that was originally budgeted the first time this was talked about, and when it was unused, it rolled into fund balance, so we had to reappropriate it the next year, and we've been doing that same number. I just can't remember how many years back, but I know it was at least last year. I think it was the year before that.
Okay.
So it's been the same number.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
The motion passes. Committee and other reports. Finance and Operations Committee, Chairwoman Christy Cox.
Mr. Chairman, we met today at 5 o'clock and to consider the applications for service. And I would like to say thank you to all the folks who have applied to serve on a board or commission. It is a huge responsibility, and you don't get much credit for it. And so I encourage all of you, if you're not part of one, please do so. We did have a lot of great applicants. I'm excited to see that. The committee met and made the following recommendations for Bethel Fire Tax Advisory Board: John Howard for 3-year term, Jennifer Riddle for 1-year term, York County Natural Gas, Dennis Getter for a first term, Lake Wiley Parks and Rec Board, Laura Bailey for a first term, Catawba Regional Workforce Investment Board, Robert Burton for a first term. The CVB and Flint Hill requests were deferred, and Oakdale Fire Tax Advisory Board, Richard Irby and Leon Yard were approved for a second term. We got a very brief finance update. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard Kevin Madden speak that short amount of time, but we did a record meeting where he informed us that he's working on the value of a mill, and that 2019 looked like a good year.
Thank you. Councilmember, new non-agenda comments. I'm gonna begin, and then I'll recognize Mr. Winkler. I want to welcome the scouts to our meeting tonight. I meant to do that at the very beginning, and in my haste did not. Welcome you. I assume you are here for a merit badge based on the classic Coke versus New Coke comments. You may get a history badge as well. But we welcome you here, and we hope you will come back. Mr. Winkler.
Thank you. I just wanted to let the council know that I was approached a week or two ago. Directly across from our buildings here is the Path Thrift Store. And Path is a charity here in York. It stands for People Attempting to Help, although I believe they've rebranded themselves, and they use another acronym for Path now, and I cannot remember what it is right off the top of my head. But it's a more positive acronym than just attempting to help. But they have the thrift store across the street, and it pays almost all of the administrative costs of that charity, which has a food bank and an emergency assistance and other things over on Rail Street here in town, and they support all of York School District 1 residents. And they came to me. They have a fairly small building, and they've had a pod outside their building for a while that they have to put overflow in. People, believe it or not, donate stuff that is not in real good shape sometimes. Stuff that can't really be sold, clothing that, you really can't sell it even in a thrift store. And they have to do something with that, so it has to be stored until they build up enough that there is a couple of companies in the country that will buy that stuff by the pound, and they ship it to South Africa or somewhere and sell it as scrap materials and stuff. And so they're losing that pod, and they notice that we have a storage building behind the old ag building over here that is about to be demolished. And so they ask if, since they are a local nonprofit charitable organization, if there's a way we as a council could allow them to pick up that building and move it across Liberty Street instead of paying our demolition company to demolish it. And so I wanted to bring that before council, because I think that would be a real good way to maybe save a little money to not have to pay to demolish an extra building when we know we got a whole lot of expenses coming from demolishing that building, and help out a local charity at the same time. So I wanted to bring that up before full council, make them aware of that.
Any other new? Yes, sir, Mr. Roddy.
Thank you, Mr. Roddy. Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that with the Pathways presentation, that I'd like to see that put on the agenda for the next meeting so we can either give a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Mr. Roddy.
This Saturday afternoon, we finally reached the point of the York County Appreciation Day, Visitors Day with employees and volunteers. So, and I know several people on council may or may not be able to attend, but looking forward to getting out in the community, meeting some of our employees and volunteers at the basketball game. We're all attending the Winthrop basketball game as a token of appreciation to our employees and volunteers who give their time, talents, and effort to help us serve the people here. Really excited about that. So if you haven't already communicated about the tickets, look forward to seeing people. The time's at 2 o'clock, so we want to invite the community to come out, as well as the rest of council, staff. A lot of York County employees are going to be there, just having some fun, taking in a local ball game and supporting our local university. Winthrop's playing, I think, College of Charleston this weekend. And so we're getting together to spend some time and just put on a pair of jeans and T-shirts and shake some hands and thank some people for doing a good job for us throughout the county. And also, I'll be remiss if I didn't mention last Tuesday we had another tragedy of a shooting here in Rock Hill / York County. A friend of mine, her daughter got killed just outside of between Rock Hill and York on what they call Leach Road. So I'm asking all the community and friends and council members and staff to keep that family in their prayers. There was a tragic accident, not an accident, a tragic situation that involved a young man and several people that he felt compelled to attempt to take their lives, and he actually was successful with definitely one of them. I think the other two are still fighting for their lives, but just keep those families in your thoughts and prayers. And it's only fitting that we open up with part of a situation that talked about people who are in situations trying to get out. And obviously, domestic violence is one of those things that is alive and well, and we need to make sure that we do all we can to get people help when they come to us or when situations come up with domestic violence. So I was just wanting to mention that to bring awareness that there are some situations out here and people in situations that we may find it hard to fathom. How do people get to the point of, wanting to take somebody's life, or how does someone get down on their luck to where they become homeless? So just reaching out to everyone's sense of compassion for people and for families that go through these incidents and tragic situations. So I just wanted to kind of put that back to the forefront, because a lot of times we get numb to the fact that when people fall down on their luck or when families go through, it's for the moment for us, but it's for a lifetime and longer for people who are enduring and going through. So I just wanted to take the moment to put that back to the forefront to everybody.
Anyone else?
Yep.
Ms. Love.
So I just wanted to thank our county manager and the 16 employees, department heads, and our county attorney who this past Friday, we sat from noon till about 5 listening to their achievements and their goals for the coming year. And I just want to commend you on a job well done, and those department heads who, are a little nervous coming up before council, maybe if it's their first time, and it was for some of them, but letting us know what they've accomplished. And it's very important that we listen to those people and are aware and can pass along to our constituents the good news that they are truly doing a fantastic job on behalf of all the taxpayers in York County. So I left that meeting very excited and looking forward to the new goals of 2019.
Anyone else? Mr. Hamilton.
I've just always been struck by this community's ability to punch above its own weight, to borrow a boxing term. And I think tonight has just been a series of reminders of that, between our new building that the taxpayers have provided this community, the work that Manning has done on behalf of Pathways with his board, hitting incredible numbers with the animal shelter, and the work the museum's done to have a good year last year. So I just want to acknowledge that, and to echo Chairman Johnson's comments and welcome all the scouts here tonight. Thank you all for joining us, and I wish you all the best when you continue on your scouting journey. So thank you for being here.
Any citizens' concerns? None. We have a motion for executive session.
Yes, sir. I move we go into executive session to receive legal advice upon Clausen ZBA appeal, receipt of legal advice on the condemnation project 11149-004, track 72, and proposed contractual matter involving receipt of legal advice on Association of Legal Counsel and Ryan Powell litigation.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, before you take a vote on that, I do want to make sure that I let the council know that I will be recusing myself from executive session discussion and from any vote on any action taken regarding the Ryan Powell lawsuit. I've provided a copy of the written notice to the clerk to council and to the chairman in advance of this meeting, but wanted to make sure I put that on the record.
That is noted. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It is 7:53. We will be in our new executive room at 8 o'clock.
Change that. Karen sent me a text. Y'all look funny sitting out there. Of course, I know y'all can't see me. You don't know who said that, do you?
The council has exited executive session. Are there any motions?
Yes, make a motion to authorize proceeding with condemnation on project 11149-004, track 72.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Are there any additional motions?
Yes, I make the motion for association of Keith Martin as legal counsel in the Ryan Powell litigation case.
Second. I want to make sure the record reflects that I'm recusing myself from this vote.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
None. Motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
I thought we was gonna have a post-council reception.